Yes, what's going on people? Rooster here and welcome back to another episode of Roo's Reviews. And today we're getting involved with Optix by Tobias Dostal. So let's get into this. Right, let me take these off. It's not actually that bright today, but this trick is pretty damn bright. So what is Optix? Optix is a utility device which allows you to vanish either your phone or a spectator's phone in an instant. There are no pulls, there's no sleeves needed, and it's a very, very cool gimmick. So let me get into this. This effect has been on my pre-order for the best part of a month and a bit now, and I sort of took a punt on this, right? Because you never know. Tobias is obviously well known for his creativity, so you sort of take effects like this with a pinch of salt, knowing there might be some limitations and some restrictions, things like the sunglasses production that he does. Obviously people sort of take it with a pinch of salt, knowing what they're kind of getting. Silhouette was amazing, obviously that sort of hit the fan at Blackpool and Magic Live and all those things, and as this trick suggests, this was the #1 trick at Magic Live. People were sort of saying, please put this effect out, to the point where Tobias sort of had to, really. Peer pressure. Maybe not, I don't know. What do you get? Well, you get this very nice package from Illusionist. I'll just flip it around. The instructions are on the back here, so I've covered them. But you get a very nice magnetic close lid that opens like this. And inside you get the gimmick itself, as well as a USB charging cable. Now this cable is pretty cool because the gimmick itself is so small and compact. This magnetic charging cable, just literally you hold it against it and it just slots into place. It's really nice, really cool, something a little bit different that a lot of magic items don't have. The gimmick itself is beautifully made. The one that Tobias uses in the instructions and when he's filming, I think is his own homemade gimmick, and while it still looks incredible, the one that you get is infinitely better. Now, I've got to say this, when this came out, when the trailer hit, everyone was having their guesses, right? YouTube inundated underneath the trailer with people saying, oh, it's a glorified delight. Oh, it's just one of those fake light thumb things, a delight as well. Not even close. Not even close, right? Just enjoy the trick for what it is. Stop trying to guess what this gimmick is, right? As a worker, I sort of put it on a back burner, sort of saying, oh, maybe it's not workable. When I saw the trailer come out, I knew that I'd made 100% the right decision. Okay, this is 100% workable, and I got it on Monday, and it is now Thursday, and I've had a chance to work it twice. Now, both times that I tried this effect, once was in a sort of darkish gigging situation. People are saying, oh, is it limited to sort of performing at night? It's not. It kind of helps a little bit, but not that much. And the other one was in a well-lit house party, right? So everyone could see what was going on. Both times completely flew. Completely through. I sort of took a punt because I hadn't really practiced it that much. Certain things will need practicing. Certain aspects of the gimmick will need practicing, such as the vanishes, the actual activation of the gimmick. I can say this, it's so portable. Like, I totally forgot I had it on me at one point until I just reached into my pocket and thought, oh yeah, there it is. Very easy to get into as well. Tobias goes into great detail on the downloads about how to sort of set the gimmick up, how to change it for different hand sizes, the multitude of vanishes, and there are a lot of vanishes. I think he does one in the mouth. That's one that I did at a table. I love that one. It's really cool, really visual. Looks like you're eating their phone. There's also the blow vanish where you just go and it vanishes as well. And the selfie vanish, which is really cool as well. I haven't had a chance to try that out yet, but there's a few others on there as well. And there's even a point in the download where he doesn't cut and they come up with a vanish on the spot, which is really nice, really cool, really refreshing to hear him chatting with the camera guy going, oh yeah, what about if you do it like this? And he's going, oh yeah, we can add that in as well. Really cool, really nice. It's quite clear that Tobias is someone that enjoys what he does, enjoys working these things and enjoys teaching it to people. He's really nice, he comes across great on camera, total pro. So, most people will have bought this effect because they saw the trailer of a phone being handed to Tobias by a spectator in video mode. He then turns the flash on their phone. He then takes out his phone, gives it to them. They start recording what he's doing, and the phone vanishes from his hands and swaps places with his phone in their hands. Most people will be buying this gimmick for that effect. Having tried that out twice now, I can say that it is one of the greatest pieces of almost seemingly impromptu magic that you can do. I've not sort of had a reaction like it because there's a moment where the spectator almost thinks this hasn't happened. And then when they figure out that it's happened, they can't fathom what has then happened? It just goes, they're just in they're just in some sort of internal loop trying to figure out, well, how did that end up in my hand? He must have given it to me, but then he had my phone. It is crazy. The switch that's taught for your phone to their phone is flawless. The fact that there's that camera light on is so bright and so blinding. No one sees the switch anyway. You've got all the cover in the world to do this switch. And even if the light wasn't on, you'd still get away with it, right? You still would. But the fact that the light is on, you have this sort of extra added bit of cover, which is really cool. And it just makes that moment fly by. So let me show you what this vanish, or one of these vanishes, looks like. I filmed this yesterday, so bearing in mind I didn't have a spectator's phone to do the switch or anything like that. This is just a in the mouth vanish, which I've done a couple of times in live performances, and I think it looks great. So enjoy. What's happening, guys? Rooster here, and I thought I'd show you something using my iPhone. So you've heard the saying that an apple a day keeps a doctor away, right? Not necessarily true. In fact, let me show you what I mean, okay? Let me just put the flash on just here, just so that you guys can see. Everyone can see this, right? Watch. 3, 2, 1. Kind of hits the spot, man. So there you go, guys. That was a performance of the In the Mouth Vanish. I hope you guys liked it. As you can say, that's just one way you can go into this. You know, it doesn't have to be you borrowing a spectator's phone. You can just go up to a table and sort of ask them for a selfie. You can do the selfie vanish and make the phone disappear. Now, I should say, when I first got this, I immediately was a bit wary about the vanishes and how they would work. So much so that I adapted the gimmick to be used as a pull, because as a worker, I know that pulls work in the real world, and it did actually work. Like when I tried it out, I know that it would be fine. The way that I have my setup, using the gimmick on a pull would be fine as well. And I'm sure many people will come up with their own ways of adapting the gimmick. There is a slight noise issue. It's not really an issue. When the gimmick activates, there is a slight sound. I've sort of found a way of negating it slightly. There are ways of doing it, but when you're in a normal performing environment, you don't really hear it anyway. And even when I was in the house party, there was no music playing. It was literally like a parlor show. So there was about 15, 20 people, all eyes on me, doing this thing, and the sound just flew over their heads. I didn't really hear it. So just bear that in mind, that there is a small sound and it can be combated pretty easily. If you have the gimmick, feel free to PM me. So when it comes to the durability of this gimmick, I've noticed that there is a part of the gimmick which is sort of like a material sort of fabric. It's got nothing to do with your clothing or anything like that, but this material can get frayed slightly at the edges, and it has happened to mine. It's not a big issue, I just trim the edges off, but it's something to be wary about. Don't freak out about it. If it gets used, those edges are going to fray slightly. The rest of the construction itself is beautiful. The gimmick is literally about the size of a folded playing card, if not smaller, and it will fit very easily into your hands. Now, talking about hands, it comes preset at a certain hand size. I guess this might be Tobias's hand size. It was perfect for me. When I then adapted the gimmick to be used as a pull, I then changed the whole gimmick basically, which meant I had to then resize my hand, and that's not an issue at all. In the instructions, it says that some of the stuff that you need for the resizing comes with it. That wasn't in my box. So if you're thinking that some of the extra stuff that you need comes with it, I'm not sure, because it didn't come in my box. It might be in other boxes, I'm not sure, but it's not an issue because I had loads of it. So the good and bad points about this. It should theoretically work with any phone. Now, the phones that I tried it with at the events that I was performing at yesterday and the day before were sort of black on the back, but they had other designs on there, okay? The gimmick you get is black, so you do sort of have to be not so much wary, because Tobias does go into how to combat this, and the fact that the light is on. Once that light is on, you can't tell whether that phone's black, gold, red, pink, whatever. You cannot tell, okay? And it's just something that I know people will get hung up about, is this idea that, oh, the gimmick's a different colour, how are people going to suss it out? In the moment, they really don't know. It's amazing how unaware people actually are of their own phones. You're literally giving them their phone back in the Spectator exchange version of this effect. You're giving them their phone back. They're holding it and they're filming it. When I did that at the drinks reception, I got the person to spin around and film everybody who was in the drinks reception. It was on their phone and they had no idea. Completely worth the price of this. So, a negative point. This will take practice. There are certain aspects to the gimmick which you will need to get used to. The vanishes you will definitely get used to. If you've not used this sort of setup or whatever for vanishing objects before, then it is definitely something that you need to practice. I've experienced other similar hookups, not exactly the same as this, but similar stuff, so I knew where my hands could be. And yeah, it's really not an issue. You just have to put the time and practice in, like all good magic. Another good point, the charge time lasts about an hour. If that. I think Tobias says on the download, if you literally have a gig and you chuck it on for 5 minutes beforehand, you will still have a bright white light when it comes to performing the effect. It really doesn't take that long to charge, which is a bit of a godsend when you're always gigging and always thinking about performing this. Now, this isn't really a bad point, but Tobias mentions a clothing type restriction. When you're doing the spectator switch, you will need some sort of clothing to be able to go into, like a jacket or something like that. The jacket switch is flawless. That's what I've been using. It completely goes over people's heads. It's amazing. I'm sure people will adapt it for pockets and stuff like that, but for me, the jacket is the best way of doing this switch. The other slight clothing restriction, if it is a restriction, I don't know, because I've not performed it using this clothing restriction and it still works fine, is he says wear sort of dark-ish clothing, but you only really need to do that if you're doing one particular movement. And that movement I've done in a lighter shirt than this, in a white shirt, and because you're doing sort of like certain moves with your hands at the same time, you're covering that movement anyway. So that clothing restriction isn't really something that I would worry about too much. He mentions it because it sort of helps in the process of covering what you're doing, but I wouldn't go into it too much. Just wear what you want to wear. Just be aware that this gimmick will take practice to make it look fluid and that sort of thing. So my final thoughts on Optix. I can see why it's warranted the #1 trick at Magic Live, right? I can see why that trailer has gone out and it's had loads of pros and loads of lay people sort of just freaking out, because it is a pretty killer thing. And the fact that it is so small and compact and doesn't take up like no pocket space at all, you know, I just chucked it in my jacket pocket and forgot it was there until certain tables I just reached in to get my cards and oh yeah, no, that's there as well. It's a really cool bit of kit, which is much more than a delight. I don't know why people sort of think, oh, it's just one of those some tip delight. That really me off watching those YouTube comments underneath, because Illusionist and Tobias have clearly gone in and put the time and effort into this effect. It's one of those things that at some point, if elements of the gimmick did sort of fade or whatnot, I mean, not that it would, but they'd be very easy to fix, you know? The electronics are made and encased so soundly within this gimmick that you're not going to warrant it getting broken, you know, unless you go swimming with it at 2,000 feet or whatever, you know? But completely flawless gimmick. It's so well made. Total props to Tobias for making it like this and adapting it from the original gimmick that he did have. The instructions themselves break down each part, so you've got the performances, you've got the how to set up the gimmick, and then the various vanishes and final thoughts and all this sort of thing. It was beautiful sort of watching Tobias work through the instructions and seeing how he delivers this whole package that you get. It's really worth watching. All of it. Don't just skip through some of it, watch all of it, because it's very worth it. So yeah, that is it. This has gone into my set. I can't say that I'm not going to use it, because I have already used it. It's one of those things that you sort of have to get over the initial hurdle with. It's the same, I think people have likened it to effects like double cross. When you first do double cross, you think that moment, they're going to get that moment, right? Until you do it and they don't get it and you go, well, what was I even worried about? It's the same thing with this. It's all up here. You just do it and it just flies by. The fact that this can be used as your own phone as well, you bring up your own phone, and the fact that you're just holding your phone like this and scrolling through, no one bats an eyelid. No one bats an eyelid. They think that that's your phone. When you then vanish it, they cannot comprehend that moment. Even more so when it's their phone. When it's their phone and they're holding it and they've been recording it the whole time, that's something that they can take away. They can transfer it to you. Whatever, that footage is there. That footage is permanent. So, for creating those memories, this trick gets, not that I do ratings or anything like that, but this, if I did do ratings, this is 100%. This is workable. Don't think that it's not, because as I say, this channel, everything I do, I go out and work beforehand. I make sure that it does work. There's loads of stuff that I have got that I don't review because it's not workable. But this, it surprised me, but it really is. It's great. So, top work, Tobias. Great work, Illusionist. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.